Welcome to the City of Merritt. Welcome to the City of Merritt regular meeting of council, Tuesday, July 23rd, 2024. You'll notice I started the meeting off with this monstrous hammer. This was given to me 2 days before Mr. Neil Menard, our ex-mayor, our older mayor, passed away. And he wanted to know if I would, he was going to actually present it to me in council, but it didn't work out. But I wanted to ex-mayor, a great mayor, and a friend, and had a lot of good times with Neil. He was really part of the community, Centennials, Skalula, anywhere that was volunteering to be done, Neil was there. So, 80 years old, lived a good life, and always be remembered. He's his. Going to use this hammer for a while, and he wanted me to put a plaque on it, but it's in his handwriting, so I'm just going to leave it as it is at this point in time. But we'll get the other one back eventually. I just want to use this one for a little while. We would like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that we are gathered on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Inca, Kappa, and Silk people. Late items. Councillor Charney.
I have had a lot of people contacting me, phone calling and texting with regards to the penalty given for online payments of their taxes. I haven't received anything yet, but I paid mine on the 27th of June. We're in a community that has seen some hardship. A lot of our families are living month to month, and they need that paycheck from June to pay their taxes. And so they wait till 29th, 30th, 1st to pay their taxes online. And to receive a bill for 10%. I don't want to be belittling, but maybe use a little common sense and say, look at the date it was posted. And if it's posted before the due date, then it's acceptable. It's due on the 2nd, so look at the 9th. If you haven't paid by then maybe we look at taking action. But if it's due on the 2nd, if you look at the payments that have come in by the 9th.
So, Councillor Charney, are you going to? This is more of a notice of motion.
Okay.
So, do you want to wait till notice of motion?
Oh, repeat the whole thing again?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I have had several as well, and I've already had conversations with those people, but
I can do a motion. Whatever.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So would you like to have this as added as an agenda item?
Yes, thank you.
So that would be 8.2 as an agenda item. Is this the only one you have?
Yeah, that's all.
Okay. So this would become 8.2, and this would be tax notice issue. Do we have a seconder? No, you can't second your own motion. Councillor Baxter. Any questions or anything on that one? I see you're blinking there, Councillor Charney.
No, just I wanted to point out that we should add
Yes.
this as an agenda item and do it in the proper way.
So we'll move it to 8.2. No? Okay, excellent. Adoption of minutes, 4.1, regular council meeting minutes, July 9th, 2024. A recommendation that the minutes of the regular council meeting be held on July 9th, 2024 be adopted. Councillor Petrosi, Councillor Etchart, any errors or omissions? Yes. Councillor Egan.
Thank you. Under item number 10, it said when I reported on my attendance at the Lytton Village recognition ceremony and an evening with council. Unfortunately, no, I did not go to the evening with council, but I did attend the Canada Day, and I've been working with Chamber of Commerce on their strategic plan.
Thank you. And other errors? We'll take care of that. Seal?
Tank. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, we should, to amend the agenda, 5.2 needs to be removed from the agenda.
Oh, okay. Okay, no problem. We can do that. So, we'll just get that little bit of Councillor Egan's situation done. Okay, excellent. So, returning to late items. 5.2 BC Transit, Lisa Rand Manager, Government Relations, Transit to present, not attending. We need, no, 5.1 we're doing, 5.2 we're just removing. So 5.2 to be removed. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Etchart? I have no idea. Yeah. So just to let you know, I had this presentation at TNRD last week and they were absolutely mauled. I'm not too sure they're excited to be presenting anymore because this is something that has stuck up in a lot of communities that people are very upset about. So the centralization. So.
And because I don't think the community is aware and we haven't heard from them, they've missed, this is the second cancellation.
So what's happening with this is where we lose our transit society. It all goes to like our hospitals now all out of Kamloops. So our transit, all the smaller communities transit now will be satellited out of Kamloops. We already know that centralization doesn't work at all. We've seen it with forestry doesn't work. We've seen it with health doesn't work. So we were quite, there was very little notice on this at all. So it flies in the face of Nicola Valley Transit Society that has poured their heart and soul into this, and the Yellowhead Society and every other group to suddenly be just told, you know, you're redundant. You're no longer needed. So the whole idea is the fact that everything will be run out of Kamloops. Drivers will be assigned. There'll still be drivers here, but they'll be assigned from Kamloops. Question that I had is when a bus needs repair, how do you get a broken bus to Kamloops? Like you're going to have to put it on a trailer and haul it all the way over there. Be no mechanical issues here at all. It's a little far-sighted. They have been requested to give TNRD, Merritt, Clearwater, Ashcroft, all the areas that are served by this, a clearer vision of what this looks like, because we're concerned that fact that NVIT students use this service, seniors use this service. We don't want to see a lack of service after this because, as I said, we all know what happens when things centralize and they don't go well. So I think there's a possibility that they may be pulling back on this, and this is why you're not seeing them tonight, is because they got absolutely mauled at TNRD, and they were not happy. It was a basic whitewash of what was happening, thinking that nobody would care, and unfortunately, we do care. So. Made it quite clear that our society has worked very hard to take this transit to one of the most pointed to models in all of BC for a community its size. 85,000 rides a year. That's amazing for a town that has 7,500 to 8,000 people. Went to transit and went to bat for this and got extra. We need a little bit more than just a, hey, by the way, on this date, we're gone. And so, you know, I let them know that that room over there that they're considering leaving is tied to the parking spots out in the, so if that room goes and they go, the parking spots are no longer available either. So not trying to be mean about it, but there needs to be a little bit more looked at than this. So I think because of the uproar at TNRD, that we probably will see a change or maybe an extension so communities can get their points across, because they at no point in time expected anything like this to happen, but they just, again, a Victoria group that doesn't live and breathe in communities this size, making a decision, thinking it's okay. So, Councillor Egan.
Thank you. I was reading through their proposal this afternoon, and is this graph they put out with all the regionalization? So all these communities have already adopted the centralization?
Again, it's not all the way there, but it's what's out there. So from what I saw at TNRD, you know, right now this is a suggestion of the way it's going to go, but it hasn't been voted on or anything like that. But again, it's trans. They'll do as they wish.
I know. I just want to know if these communities have adopted their plan.
I have no idea.
Okay. It says who else has gone through regionalization?
Yeah, I have no idea. I just know that the 23 communities that are being represented by transit were very unhappy about this whole thing. Okay. I think it's the fact that there's just been no consultation on what this will look like to quell the fears, right? I mean, you know, if it isn't for the, I mean, you know, Nicola Meadows, the Florentine, NVIT students, people in community, they need this service and they're scared it's going to be gone. So we'll see what happens. And past councils in this council have fought very hard to keep transit here. And I think we've done an amazing job for the ridership that we have.
This week, I think it was in there that, yeah, regarding funding, and it was talking about have Merritt seen, you know, the different pieces. I think it was written to us from Minister.
Yes.
Well, yeah, for Fleming. But
Yeah.
regardless, I mean, the thing is that we were looking at expanding up to Coldwater in the past council, and probably even the council term you were on before, and yeah, I'd be concerned that they would be cutting it back or eliminate Lower Nicola, and some people depend on it, like you say, and yeah, I'd be surprised if they didn't cut back if they went to regional.
Well, this will be like anything else. You know, the larger centers will get the transit, the smaller centers will not.
Yeah.
Just like the hospitals right now. So anyways, I think they're rethinking. So I wouldn't be surprised we see something in the near future with a different tone and maybe an idea of how they're going to press forward. And then we can see what that looks like. So did we get a seconder on that removal? Okay. Those in favor of removal? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Into the minutes. .1 recognition, Evan Baird. Ashlyn, if you care to fill us all in, please.
Absolutely. Okay, so the city of Merritt would like to recognize Evan Baird for providing selfless humanitarian assistance during a medical emergency outside of his regular duties. As a member of the public and trained first aid attendant, his heroic efforts during this major incident exemplified the honorable character that is esteemed, appreciated, and celebrated by every member of the city of Merritt. So we have Mr. Baird.
There we go.
He quickly responded, had to break a windshield to get into a vehicle to assist an elderly woman who was trapped in her vehicle and injured, and remained on scene for almost 2 hours until medical services arrived, stabilizing her C-spine. And so that's a very hard hold to keep as a first aider for almost 2 hours. So Evan came to work the next day with some pretty good cuts and bruises in his attempts to help this individual. So we wanted to recognize him for being quick to respond and selfless and heroic in that manner.
And Evan is also very recognizable at the pool. You see Evan all the time. My granddaughter waves all the time. So I'll meet you up front here, Evan, and somebody could take a picture. I'd appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Who says heroes wear capes? They sometimes wear bathing suits.
Not always in that.
No. There we are.
Hello.
Hello, Joel. How are you?
Good, good. How are you guys doing?
I am good. So just I'll preface this before you get going, Joel. Joel sent me an email about a month ago about he was vacationing here at Monk Park and was quite surprised we didn't have a rock climbing situation in our community. I didn't even know we had rocks to climb, but apparently Joel is better at this than I am. And I'll let him take it from here. So Joel, you take it over, please.
Sure. Sorry to hear about your buddy Neil. By the way, sorry to hear about that. I'm gonna share my screen here if that's all right. Let me know if that's working. So I'm not as familiar with Zoom as I am with Teams.
No worries, take your time.
Is that popping up?
There you are.
Perfect. So I'm not too sure how much you guys know about rock climbing. Basically, it started in the 40s and 50s, and it was used as practice for mountaineering when people were still trying to climb unclimbed peaks. They were just using just climbing the most vertical parts to as practice. And what happened was that started in Yosemite Valley in California, and over the years it evolved into what is now uh, a very popular sport. Most popular version. Typically, it's bolted in outdoor rock. Around Calgary, we're bolted in Crown Land. Federal parks, provincial parks. It's kind of understood basically that, I mean, if there's rock, people are going to climb it, and it's been accepted that bolts in the rock are, the easiest form of protection to make it uh, a safe sport. So typically, climbing is done by two people. You have a climber and you have a belayer. So one person on belay, one person climbing. It's Sorry, I wish I had more time to prepare for this. I'm not much of a public speaker, but climbing, it's good for any age. This is a shot of my 7-year-olds climbing at the gym. They also climb outdoors. Um, that's a good friend, pregnant climbing. Typically, I mean, it's exploded into a very large sport. This would be a shot from it's a website that just contains numerous routes. And what we have is a big blank spot around Merritt, BC. When I was there, I did some exploring out around Nicole Lake.
So Joel, just a quick question. When you were here, I'm just wondering what you found was climbable up around Monk Park and Nicola Lake. Is that just near the turn, or where did you find this area?
So typically, we were I went along both sides of the lake, and then there's the bluffs. I would be on the north side of the road, driving on the north side of the lake. And then as I was driving, we were heading southwest. We were heading to Vancouver, actually, to go climbing on the island. There's a river that flows either in or out of Merritt. And you don't have to have mountains to climb. You basically just need vertical rock. I mean, anywhere from, 5 to 25 meters. I dug up this survey that was done, I think it was 58, but all of this is all granite rock. And what you have is granite and volcanic, and you've got dense volcanic rock. So it's actually really good rock for climbing. Squamish is on granite. Yosemite Valley is all granite. What we climb typically around our neck of the woods is all limestone. So it's typically a little bit softer. We have some quartz crags, which are really nice, but that's why I was kind of surprised when I was out looking at your guys' rock. I checked out 2 spots. Pull over, and it looked like, there's, some spray paint on the rocks. It's a spot to go hang out. It looks like you can jump off the rock and into the water here. That's all climbable rock. By the boat launch, all those bluffs up and through there, I went for a hike through there, and that all looked like, good climbing rock. Basically, sorry. Technical difficulties. So typically, this is what you're going to see in a guidebook. It'll show you the routes, grades, where you'll find them on the rock. And typically what you're going to have is, so when you do sport routes, what you have typically is you'll have bolts roughly every 2 meters. So basically you can clip in your rope as you climb, just as kind of a safe point, checkpoint sort of thing, until you get to the top. And then what you would set up would be a top rope anchor. So anybody climbing after you would climb tied off from above the entire time. All our climbing around here, I mean, we've got developed crags, we've got crags with hundreds of climbs, hundreds of sport routes. Typically what happens is clubs, just hobbyists, Alpine Club of Canada, TABVAR. There's a bunch of different organizations and clubs that continue bolting in all these areas. They're all donation based. Typically, you can bolt routes, you can submit your hardware and get it reimbursed by these organizations. But as far as I could dig up and find, you guys don't have anything in Merritt. I reached out. I went on your guys' Facebook and found that you guys have a hiking club. I kind of reached out to that community to see if there's interest in climbing or just picked into climbing the Skaha Bluffs. We go to Squamish, and there's the entire community is basically you base your summer on where you're going to climb and travel. So I kind of did a bit of a breakdown as what it would take per route. Typically, it's like $144 to $179 worth of hardware per bolted route. It's all stainless steel gear, so I mean it's going to last 25 or 35 years without needing maintenance. This stuff that we order and use is all rated to, I think it's 22 kilonewtons or higher. Climbing gear has to be rated to 14. Typically, you don't put more than 3 kilonewtons of force on any gear, so it's got quite a large safety factor, safety margin. So what I'm looking to do is come bolt routes in Merritt. Like I said, typically here we're bolting on Crown land, and we're also bolting in federal and provincial parks. So I was kind of the spots I picked out there. I looked that up, and that's all on Crown land. So as far as I know, I mean, nobody ever really objects to any bolting around here, so I'm not too sure exactly how that would work. What else was I going to touch on? So basically what I came up with was what I'd be looking to do would be probably 10 routes at this section and 10 routes in this section, or 8 and 12 kind of thing. And we'd bolt, to a intermediate to medium difficulty level routes as a start point. Accommodations, hardware for 20 routes, and then myself and the 2 people that would come join me. And what we figured, that I got a breakdown of it, but it would be about $12,000 is what we figured would be the cost to do 20 routes.
So Joel, you're part of a climbing association, are you not?
We're our own club. We just, bolt routes in existing crags, like furthering, the crag set up in our area. I mean, there's more and more rock than has been bolted. So, I mean, you're kind of walking through, you see routes. It's like, wow, that might be a good route. So, I mean, you set up a top anchor, or, try a few, climb up part way. And then, I mean, if it's going to be a feasible route, you wind up bolting it and submitting it to the book, and they add it in, and it's just another route in the crag to climb. But so basically we're just a club of climbers. We're not an official organization, but I was doing some figuring if that would be the best way to go about this, would be like a donation to a club that would then allow those funds for the bolting of it. I know there's a couple different areas. We went climbing at Vancouver Island, and there was it's essentially a bolt launch, and the city owns the land, and you got to go downtown and sign a waiver to climb on it, because it is that piece is physically owned by the town.
Mhm.
But typically, I mean, climbing is a climb at your own risk, just sort of same as hiking. Like, I mean, you go hiking and you trip over a stick and hurt yourself, it's kind of on your own liability.
Mhm. So this property that you're showing us here, this would fall into the TNRD, Thompson Nicola Regional District. So this is a group that we would have to get involved as well to see, what the rules and regulations of that would be. I think I forwarded your information on to our Economic Development Tourism Officer, and I'm not sure that she has contacted you or not. Has she?
No, no.
Okay, I'll make sure she does. Because I think we would like to see a little bit more on this, because this is just another thing that we can bring to our community to bring tourists here. And I honestly did not know that we had an area that we could climb. So,
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't have to be large mountains to climb. I mean, they can be as simple as 30 feet tall, and I mean, just features on rocks. I didn't really go into depth with these anchors are what you would drill. So you drill a 3/8 hole and you bolt these anchors into the rock. Um, Typically they wind up looking kind of like this. This would be a top anchor setup. This would be at the top of a route to then build an anchor and top rope from there. But no, but they haven't reached out to me yet.
okay, I'll make sure they do. Are you done with your presentation, Joel?
Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't a lot more prepared.
Nope, no problem. I just want to see if there's any questions for you around the table here. Any questions for Joel? So just, let's say this went ahead and happened, and I wanted to become a climber and I've never done it before. Is there a price that I would be looking at to get started, just like a bargain basement price, or I'm just wondering what this would cost to get involved.
So typically you have a pair of shoes and you have a harness is what typically you need, and then a rope and draws. But what I figured was if we were going to come and bolt routes, that's why I started reaching out to the hiking community. I mean, if we can organize some sort of show and teach while we're there, teach people how to build anchors, teach people how to climb to do when we're there. Typically, there's a lot of guidebooks where you have, a hard copy. It looks like a phone book. It's got all the route info, but a lot of people are using all the online databases. So there's the Craig, there's Mountain Project. What I would do is I would put all the info on those websites, pictures of the routes, the description, what they need to be able to climb it safely. Typically, though, to get into the sport, it's a pair of shoes, a harness, a helmet for climbing outdoors, and then you got a rope and quick draws. So it's
Excellent. Also, Charlie.
So once you've put in your clamps and everything is set up, so anybody can come anytime and climb? Is it like it's there all the time for anybody to climb? So it's free?
so all the stainless steel anchors, all of that, the top anchors, that is all permanently bolted. And what you do, you show up with your own rope and your own quick draws, and then you climb. And then when you're done at the end, you clean your own gear off of the bolted stainless steel anchors. But yeah, it's a super cost effective sport for just showing up and climbing. And I mean, I think that's part of the popularity of it too, once you get a harness and shoes and the basic gear, you don't buy anything else, you just go climbing.
Excellent. Any other questions? Councilor Petrosi.
Joel, thanks for your presentation. I did a little bit of rock climbing back in the 80s, so 35 plus years ago, and it is quite a rush. So went to the Kiramias area back in the 80s a couple times with a couple groups. So I think it's a great idea, and see where it goes from here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it is definitely a bit of a rush. It's also, I mean, you get a sense of accomplishment after you complete a route. You make it to there's a lot of benefits to climbing, even the physicality of it. It is essentially like doing yoga. It's very low impact. It's kind of methodical, slow movement, a lot of stretching. And then yeah, I mean it's a feel good sport.
Well, thank you very much, Joel. Appreciate you thinking about us and bringing this to our attention and spending some time in our valley. And hopefully we'll see you again. But I will make sure you get connected with our ECDev person and let's see if we can make this go a little bit further. So I do appreciate you appearing tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bylaws, 7.1. OCP Amendment Bylaw number 2372-2024 and Zoning Amendment Bylaw numbers 2373-2024, first and second reading. So we have a recommendation that council gives first reading to the official community plan amendment bylaw number 2372-2024. Councillor Ogan, Councillor Petrosi, any questions on this at all? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Recommendation that council gives second reading to the official community plan amendment bylaw number 2372-2024. Councillor Etchart, Councillor Charney, any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Recommendation that council gives first reading to zoning amendment bylaw number 2373-2024. Councillor Egan, Councillor Ogan, any questions on this one? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Recommendation that council give second reading to the zoning amendment bylaw number 2372-2024. Councillor Ogan again, Councillor Egan again. All those in favor? Councillor Charney. Any questions on that? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. New business, 8.1. Did I miss something? Oh. Easy there, Tiger, easy. Back down. Back down there. 8.1, SEPA North Dike Maintenance Act application. We have a recommendation in front of us that council approves the requirements pursuant to the Dike Maintenance Act, Section 24E, the Water Sustainability Regulator, Section 39, and the Ministry of Water, Land and Resource Stewardship Policy Diking Authorities for new dikes. 1, the City of Merritt has agreed to become the Diking Authority, DA, and will be fully responsible for operation and maintenance of SEPA North Dike. And 2, the City of Merritt has pursued legal access to the Crown lands on which the dike is to be constructed. I need a mover, Councillor Petrosi, seconder Councillor Etchart. Questions on this from anyone? Councillor Egan.
Curious as to what or why we became the authority, the diking authorities for the new dikes.
Because there isn't any.
There aren't any?
There is no provincial diking authority. It's something we pushed for quite some time. It's still not there. So it falls to the community. And CEO, if you want to take this, you take it. You have all the answers to that.
Sure, although you were doing a great job with that answer. So the government used to be responsible for dikes, and then it sort of got transitioned to municipalities with no funds to support it. So our responsibility now under the diking paying for that out of our budget, but some of these dikes have required hundreds of thousands of dollars of repairs that are not possible within our limited municipal budgets. And there is no support from the provincial government. So not sure why they're requiring us to identify ourselves as the diking authority, because they've already made us the diking authority through legislation. But I kind of wonder, this is me being a bit of a smarty pants, not the word I was going to use, but amended it, is that they're reinforcing the fact that they are not responsible and not responsible for the funding for this, right? We have, again, this is a downloaded service. We don't have, you have to have a specific dikes and bridges. You have to have a specific type of engineering assessment by a professional, and we don't have the money. We struggle with the finance for that. So we get the assessment. The director of public works and engineering gets the assessments, and we can't do anything with them. And I think they're just reestablishing the fact that there are responsibility, and the province isn't taking responsibility in any way for dikes and bridges. Either.
And so on our DMAF request and some DFA stuff, I've made it quite clear that, and talking to our MLA and our MP, that the province needs to have a diking authority. It's not fair to give it to us. We don't have a hydrologist that can tell us what a dike is doing. To get a gentleman who is a timber cruiser to walk up and down the dikes going, this looks great, is not acceptable. So with all the issues that we've had with flooding, this council will always ask for the province to have a diking authority. It's what constantly gets asked for by all the communities that have run to this. Any community that is living by a river or a lake at this point is asking for a provincial dike authority. And that's exactly where it should be, because we don't have anybody here that can do this correctly. I mean, sure, after the dike is built and it looks brand spanking new, hey, good things are good to go. But there are terms out there called orphan dikes, which never should be a thing, which means nobody owns them, which is a scary thought. So we will continue to push for, I mean, we'll do this part because we have to, but we'll push for a diking authority provincially or federally. I think it's just the right thing to do. And as a council, we'll push forward on that.
Okay,
Not that we'll ever get it, but at least we can let our voices be heard on that.
okay, well, that's exactly what I wanted to know.
Because it would be like taking your car to a veterinarian to get fixed. Basically the same thing.
Could be a good veterinarian, good mechanic.
Councilor Richard.
Well, I mean, this is kind of count. It's not like we want to be the diking authority, but I think that if we wait for the provincial government to do anything, we could be waiting a long time. So it's the only thing that makes sense. But if we apply for the DMAF, will they exclude this piece? I mean, we've already seen some funding anyway, but
No, I doubt that they would exclude this piece as the C. Wait a minute. Thank you. So anyway, I think you would, you know, it's something we as a council can push forward. And probably might be a UBCM situation with the new government. There was no sense bringing it right now until after the election, because it would just get lost in the white noise, right?
maybe 2025 will be
Yeah, I
our
think
year.
it's just 2025 that we as a council push for a diking authority.
Thanks.
Councilor Charney.
Okay, as stated by the mayor, we don't have anyone that's qualified to inspect these dikes. But if we are supposedly getting a dike in August, and so who is going to take responsibility for inspecting this dike until we have the government taking over? So I know, but
So-
we don't have anybody trained.
Councilor
So
Charney.
how are we going to do this?
So we have we have a our recovery operations center. And they're not engineers, but they're building this from the ground up. So it's like building a car in your garage from pieces, you know exactly how it goes together. So they will know how the dike, I mean, we're building the dike. So with,
But what about,
CAO,
Yeah, so we pay for diking, we pay for inspections.
that's what I want.
So that is part of your budget,
yes.
is to pay for these inspections. And we get the annual reports, Mr. Green, for both these and the bridges, including the bridge with the water piping that's falling apart.
Yes.
But we haven't been able to do anything because we simply do not have the financial means to do it. Qualified the inspector, the more it's going to cost the city to do. But we should be budgeting for the appropriate inspector.
And we will, and this is why we need to push for a diking authority. And I think if we started rolling that ball next year, I think we would have a lot of support at UBCM for that. Now, whether that'll ever happen, who knows? But I think a diking authority is important. So. Yep. Mr. Green?
So traditionally, what I found, going back 10, 15 years, we've had 3 registered dikes, 129, 130 and 131, I believe they were numbered. One of them on the Nicola, 2 of them on the Coldwater. They've been getting inspected annually. There's a specific company that's been doing it most of that time that are very specialized in this type of stuff. Where we trip up largely is hate to use the word manpower again, but the ability to provide the maintenance on the dikes. So they get inspected every year, and usually it's the same thing being repeated over and over again. A lot of the issues with the dikes in the past has been overgrowth. A lot of the trees that are now falling down and beavers getting on them, or trees that shouldn't be there according to dike maintenance. So going forward, one of the things we have to pay attention to is when we get these inspection reports, just like a bridge and everything else, we have to allot the time and the dollars in order to do the required maintenance, and that's where things have fallen down somewhat in the past. But there have been 3 registered dikes we've been responsible for a number of years. This particular dike, I believe, is going to be numbered in with those as we get things rebuilt, as an extension to one of the previous numbered dikes. And we still have a couple that are in somewhat disrepair, with simple inability to facilitate getting them done over many years, maintenance wise.
Thank you. Any other, Councilor Charney?
Uh, along between Central and Main Street, and they compromised the dike. And what we're doing is we're setting ourselves up for a lawsuit. So I think maybe not. Okay, but the thing is the maintenance. I got trees growing in the dike, right? So, you know, those type of things have to be addressed. And I think it's really important, the maintenance.
CL?
I do think 100%, all of this is very important. We need to make sure that when you're considering the budget, this is one of those things that has not been budgeted for. So there is no human resource available in the current work plan to do this maintenance work. So if this maintenance work takes priority, which it probably should, that means some other job that public works staff do right now is not going to get done. I recognize that, you know, increasing the budget causes hardship for everybody, which we'll talk about in 8.2. But ultimately, to do the work that being required to do, especially when we're talking about natural disaster mitigation, that wasn't something that we had to do 20 years ago. The workforce has to reflect that. And right now, it does not in any way reflect doing the work currently, let alone adding a huge thing like, or adding a contractor to come in and do tree removal or whatever the case might be, right? We have to be recognizing some of these things. And those are those hard budget discussions that you guys are going to have very soon, because we can't continue in this way with these dikes. And we're not even talking about the orphan dikes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on this? I have a mover and a seconder, right? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. 8.2, added to the agenda, tax notice. I'll turn this over to Councilor Charney. And you can kind of just recap. Yeah. Hit your mic there. Councilor Charney.
Okay, so as stated earlier, I've had a lot of communication with regards to people making online payments and then getting payments before the due date, then getting a notice in the mail that they have been fined 10%. No, 3.5. I think it's 10%. Oh, pardon. Oh, all right, it's 3.5 for the credit card payment, right? 10%. And I think it's unrealistic and unreasonable and unfortunate that this is happening. And I would like to look at a system that maybe we hold off a week or two and then check who is in arrears. And if that payment was made before the due date, then it's accepted. If it's not paid before the due date, then the penalty is certainly warranted. But I think especially in this economic economy that is hurting, a lot of people are hurting, we're just adding to their pain when we do that, especially since I didn't notice that little thing over on the left-hand side that said should be paid by June 25. And I didn't see it. As I said, my payment one of mine went through on the 27th. So I'm just waiting eagerly for my little statement, but I think we should address this.
See you.
I understand council's concern. To receive in our bank account those payments by end of the day on July 2nd. So this is not something council has control over. We are legislatively required to to apply that 10% late fee if it is not received in our bank account by the end of the day, July 2nd. So this is outside of council's ability to make changes to this because this is a provincial legislation.
Councillor Etchart.
I've heard a lot of comments from people about tax notices as well. And people were also able to come in person to City Hall, receiving maybe their June check or whatever, and City Hall was opened on July 2nd and there was extra resources. So while I do appreciate the hardship and the penalty being harsh, the in-person payment option was available. So if people got paid at the end of the month, they could have come to City Hall because it was open and available to pay with debit or cash or whatever means. So it's hard because it's legislated by the provincial government, but also there's the option to come pay in person on the day of at City Hall. Not that you want to leave it to the last minute, but if they do that, then they receive a receipt immediately from the till, which I know that somebody in this room gave me a tough time about paying in person, instead of paying online, but it's for that reason that I like to pay in person. But I understand, I don't love the penalty for people, but at the same time, being able to pay in person, would avoid that fee. So, and because it's legislated provincially, we can't really change anything about it. So I agree with people because there was extra resources available to take payment at the counter. So.
Councillor Egan.
Okay, I agree with Councillor Charney because I am one of those people. I paid mine on July the 2nd. It shows coming out of my bank account. I have a receipt with a statement or an invoice saying that with a reference number that says I have paid it. And it's not my fault that the Interior Savings didn't email me or telephone me or whatever and say that it's not going to make City Hall by later today. You know, I was really busy with or not with Base Coast, but I was really busy with work. We were slammed. It's holiday, travelers, and I didn't have time to run down to the bank. And I just think that if it's kind of like the postal acceptance rule. As long as it goes in that bucket, it's received and it's paid.
So if you go to our website, you look on the website, second line down says online payments 3 to 4 days before. It's right there. So again, just want to fill in here. Talk to Kevin about this, and we already offer, like if somebody's having issues, we offer a payment plan all year long to help people get to where they need to get to. Now, I've had several conversations with people, and I think next year we need to make it a lot bolder and maybe have a little bit more information on how that 3 to 4 business days works on. Now, I'm like Councillor Etchart, I pay cash right there. I like that receipt in my.
Well,
finger.
had I known that it wasn't going to get there, I would have made time to do it.
So, what I'm telling people is that this coming year, we will be a lot more, there'll be more like jazz hands stuff about, 3 to 4 business days, don't get caught. Because I agree that 10% is a little tough, but again, it's out of our control. I think any one of us here, would appreciate to return the 10%. I would, but it's not in our bailiwick. CIO.
And I think, yeah, so, and I totally understand everybody's concerns. It is the legislation. We put the item in about, the recommended online payment date as a courtesy. We don't have to put that in. People, because we knew this was going to be a hard year for people, and if they had not already paid by the deadline, that they should make sure that they paid before the end of this year, including that 10% penalty, because then they would be going to that compounded 10% interest over the year, right? Like the correspondence people are receiving this year is significantly more than we're required to by legislation. So we're already, as an organization, extending courtesy to make sure that our residents are aware of the situation, aware of what happens when you're arrears, aware of what happens if you are holding, outstanding payments by the end of the calendar year. If you're going into tax sale, like we're already above and beyond what the legislative requirements are to make sure that our residents know what their situation is. So, you know, we apologize. It's unfortunate. It is not the city's responsibility to make sure that your bank has transferred that money. That is part of the banking system. Our requirement from the legislation is to have it in our account by the end of the workday on the 2nd.
Councillor Cherney.
I agree, communication has to be better. I looked at the taxes from last year, that little section there that should be paid by was not in that text. And as a matter of fact, and I think I'm like most people, I don't even read that. All I look at is A, B, and C and total amount. That's all I look at because that's all that's relevant to me. And so I think that maybe on the taxes, there should.
Doesn't say it has to be in our bank account.
No, it said should be paid by. That's what it says, should be paid by June 25. So maybe on the taxes, it's in bold, red, right there.
Trust me, we'll
So,
take care of it next year.
yeah.
Credit says paid by July 2nd.
That's right. That is correct. Yeah. So online payments. Yes.
I've got in my account before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So I think a little more communication and it's, I hate to see people penalized, but I guess we don't have anything to say about it.
Councillor Owen.
Thank you. So it's clear that a situation is here that needs to be done something about it. So I understand the city has done a lot, but I think that maybe that a lot is not enough. There should be ways that we can figure it out to prevent these issues for next tax year. So I have a few questions regarding this situation. So first of all, the 10%, what is that 10% fee goes to? What account? So if somebody is late in it's going to retain, I'm sure that there should be a way that council can have a say on how we can handle situation like this. So now, my other question is the June 25th deadline. So when I read the notice, so is that pretty much telling me that if I made an online payment before the June 25th, I won't have any issues with that payment?
Typically, that's the length of time it requires, just like if you were doing an online credit card payment, if you were doing any other type of online payment that an adult does, that is the minimum amount of time that one should expect before something will transfer from one account to another.
And my concern is that when I was contacted is that people made at least two of the 5 calls that I received is that people made those payments on time before the deadline, but still when they receive some kind of notification that they have to pay the additional 10% because the city did not receive their payment as they were supposed to be. So situation is here. We have to do something about it.
So you are not legislatively allowed to change anything about this, right? This is a provincial legislation. The amount of communication, again, we can do more communication, but when we're talking about this, is it next year 2 people don't make payment and we have to do more communication for them? At some point, people have to take responsibility for their own accounts, right? Like, does your credit card company call you and say, hey, don't forget to make your credit card payment? Right? They call you? I don't get that. Right? But I mean, that's the thing, is that if council wants us to continue to do that, that requires more human resources. That requires, if you want A done, B is not going to get done. Or C is not going to get done. Or
Well,
D is not
I
going to get
think
done.
to make it, a little bit more clear on the webpage, like in big, bold, whatever, piece of cake, we can do that. I think that's where we need to go. I mean, the other issue that if we want to talk about legislation and how things change is the fact that somebody can take 3 years to pay taxes that happened 3 years ago. How far in debt are we on that, waiting for people to catch up with their taxes? So we kind of get stung as well as everybody else. So unfortunately, legislative, we can't touch that. Because I'd like to, we were going to take a UBCM motion, but we can't touch that one. So a lot of little loopholes that should be plugged. Councillor Richard.
I guess the only thing that I really wanted to say was unfortunately, could we maybe ask a UBCM to put a motion forward from the floor or something? Or would this be the wrong year
I
to?
don't think we are even, I don't think it would be entertained. I think UBCM would, I don't even think it would be entertained.
The only
Because-
reason why I thought maybe we could ask for was because during COVID, I think we were able to get that penalty reduced down to 5% the one
don't
year,
know.
but
I don't know.
I'm trying to think of what it was.
Theo?
So what happens with provincial legislation is that and what will happen with resolutions from UBCM is they won't open a piece of legislation for review because of one issue, right? They'll wait several years until several things have been identified as problematic with the piece of legislation. Then they'll open the legislation for review and rewriting. And that's when they'll address it. So you could bring like the 3-year tax thing. That's like craziness, right? You could bring that, you could bring the 10%, you could bring the 10%. If you haven't paid by December 31st, councils everywhere could bring all of these issues. But until the provincial government has identified that the legislation is not working for them, they're not going to open it up for review. Because for them, that's a huge, huge cost, right? That's hundreds of thousands of dollars of work when they're doing a piece of legislation like this. So unless it benefits them to review that legislation, they will hold off until they have a certain amount that has to be reviewed and revised. So even if we bring this forward, it could potentially be years before we see that legislation open and reviewed.
I guess for a shot across the bow is we take this to Silga next year and run it through Silga, see what happens. Both the 3-year and
Good idea.
10%. And then just see if we're supported or not.
Yeah.
That's the way I would go.
Thank you.
Any more questions on this? Okay, thank you. Notices of motion. Here we are. No notices of motion? Reports from council. Who did what? Councilor Charney, you're up.
Pieces of paper
Uh-oh,
first.
it's written down.
Okay, July 11th, I attended a Silva Zoom meeting with Councillor Etchert. And the Civic Center is being booked for Silga and they are thinking about a pub night. There were some other things, but that was just kind of my two highlights. Yeah, pub night. It's a pub crawl. And also that day I went to the Base Coast Walkabout, an extremely well organized event. It's a very festive and artistic atmosphere. But after walking around, I came to the conclusion, if you want to see a variety of dogs, go to the dog show. You want to see all manner of dress, go to Base Coast. It was amazing. It was an eye opener. Anyway, and also the Base Coast donated $3,000 to the Thompson Nicola Regional Trail Society.
Nice.
So that was really nice. And I really appreciate that. July 12th, I went to the provincial boys softball tournament and the under 13, there were 8 teams with the Terrace Mariners first place. Under 15, they had 6 teams and the Cache Creek Chaos placed first and the Merritt Heat was third. And I got to throw the ceremonial pitch and did not embarrass myself. So that was good for me. July 13th, Airport Appreciation Day, hot as a snake out there. I really enjoyed looking at the planes, wondering how in one situation anybody even got into that plane. And I think the hit of the show was the mayor flying his planes and then his little guy on the motorcycle. That was a riot. So if you missed that, you'll have to get the mayor to have a demonstration. July 17th, we had EOC lunch and learn session with Adam Hart, who did an excellent presentation. He mentioned to us that emergency management consists of 4 components: mitigation, preparation, response, and recovery. So under mitigation, you've got your Fire Smart program, your diking, and your temporary sandbags. Under preparation, emergency kits, training personnel, have plans in place, take JIBC courses, which I think CAO has most of staff taking these, and buoyant alert. Recovery, examples would be, going from a boil water advisory to using tap water, building back. It allows certain emergency response powers to be exercised. It lasts 14 days, but it does not authorize spending. Emergency powers can be delegated, and this is passed by council. A local recovery period is usually 90 days. The role of the mayor and council in emergency, they are part of the EOC policy group. They set the overall strategic direction for emergency response, authorizes emergency powers, and acts as the face of the emergency. July 20th was a free swim. Again, my brain forgot it. I wanted to get numbers, but I don't know numbers. Yes.
58.
58, is that good, bad?
I think that's
That's good.
That's good?
That's reasonable.
yeah, that's a typical Saturday, so.
Perfect, perfect. July 21, I went to the Rotary breakfast, fantastic breakfast. The pancakes were huge. And I think the Rotary does a good job. And I was a little disappointed to hear that they were charged $10 per table from the city, since they're collecting money for the community and that comes out of it. But anyway, that will be a different discussion. And I think Councillor Olgan is going to suggest to the Rotary that they ask for an in-kind donation from the city in advance of what they're going to do. The car show was also then, there were 100 cars on display and it was fantastic. Brought back memories of when I was a child. And I could really see myself in that Rolls Royce. But I couldn't afford it. But anyway, it was really hot, but it was an excellent show.
as well as those who put together the base coast. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend any of those as I was on my annual holiday, my whole 5 days that I get off a year. But I've been reading through a lot of the minutes online and looking for minutes, and I've noticed that there aren't any minutes for the last two COW meetings, May 21st and June the 18th online. And then I've looked back further and then I started going through most of the meetings, and the agendas are there, but no minutes are there. And I also wanted to ask if the new economic development roundtable is the new economic development committee, because I like to see those minutes as well. Somewhere I'd like to see them, or I'd like to the economic roundtable defined as if we're.
That would be the chamber that would tell you that the economic roundtable is completely a chamber push.
Okay, so do we have an economic development committee?
No, we do not. We only facilitate. And I'm the moderator. That's what we put in as a city portion of that. But what's actually going to happen with it, that's the chamber to come up with, because they're the one who push this forward. So
okay, then I would like to see us get an economic development committee.
we put that out when we were looking for committees, and we got absolutely no takers. So we could do it again.
Still can't have a committee with nobody on from the.
So from
from the
past
city?
experience of sitting on 5 economic development committees, bunch of people that said, it's great to hear what we have on the calendar and what we've done, but what are we doing to bring something to the community? So we've taken the next step now to try and use our contacts, whatever, to bring something. And I think once that starts to happen, that's then where we would start to put it to our economic development officer to start moving that forward. I mean, we could put out for an economic development committee. We did, and there was no takers and it died. Not saying we can't do that again. It's just another committee we could put out, no problem. If you wish us to do that, we can go right ahead and do it.
Problem, is that?
No, no problem.
Yeah, we can do that because we tried that once already and there was 0 takers. So, I mean, we can try it again. That's not a problem. But I think what you've got with the roundtable is the fact that we can start to identify, because you've got some very talented people in there. And everybody's got a little bit of something going on where we could then start, bringing it to our economic development officer and then using the brain trust from TNV and people who've been in business for quite a long time. The only thing that I find with economic development committees, and I'm going to be frank, is that people are there because they have a vested interest. And once that interest doesn't get entertained, they're gone and the committee dies. So what I see with this roundtable is the fact that nobody is really trying to prop anybody up more than we're all trying to do it as a group together. And I think the next step that we're doing now is where we try to bring something or an idea that we can chase, I think is a good idea. Nothing wrong with the whole idea that we let everybody know what we're doing, but I think this committee should be designed to bring more to the valley. And I think that's where we're headed now. We'll do both, but we couldn't get, most definitely we can throw some names out or some shingles out, seeing if we can get an economic development committee. Not a
Okay, well,
problem.
then I'm just gonna save the rest of what I was gonna save for later. Thanks.
Later. Councillor Petrosi.
I was on holidays the last week and a half, and thanks to Councillor Charney and Egan for stepping up the last week and a half and attending all these functions. So thank you very much. I was on a working holiday in Powell River and then working at home, and just let you know, 99% of the repairs to my property are finally done from the flood. So 2.5 years later, so finally done. So just about there. And I just wanted to acknowledge, I was in Powell River last week when Rusty Brewer texted me about Neil. And just condolences to his family. So thank you, Neil.
Councillor Richard.
Well, a lot of the stuff's already been said. I mean, the Silga convention call that Councillor Charney and I were on was interesting because there's lots of ideas that we have, like whether it's tours of museum and different pubs and stuff, and just have a little tour and involve everybody. The Base Coast tour was really interesting. Got to volunteer and see a lot of things, a lot of art installations and other things. Most interesting. The airport day was great. I got there a little bit later, unfortunately, so I missed a lot of the activities, but it was a great warm day. The EOC Lunch and Learn was great to kind of review everything with ESS, which a couple of us have some of the trainings for the Justice Institute courses, and it was just really nice to see a plan coming together. Last week, I was also involved with some reviewing of some funding requests for the BC Interior Community Foundation. So I spent a lot of time on the weekend reviewing documents, and we just had a meeting. So so many good organizations in our region, Kamloops, Cache Creek and Merritt, Ashcroft, you name it. Everybody's asking for some funding, and it was nice to see that they're trying to put some community funding for these groups so that they can, help the different organizations, whether it be, support for pregnant women or people facing homelessness, and just all the groups that are applying, and that BCICF is trying to help fund these programs. And then, of course, we had the car show on the weekend, so life has been busy everywhere, and I think everybody's said most of it. So thanks, Wendy, for introducing everything, and but it's been good. Thanks.
Councillor Rogan.
Yeah, so I did not attend as many events as Wendy, Councillor Charney, sorry. But I did attend a few, so I have the opportunity to attend Base. I had the opportunity to provide some information about Merritt, to a few people that they were just passing by and they were on their way to Banff at that time. So I also attended the airport date as well as the lunch and learn with Adam Hart. I have to say that at the airport date, I was approached by a person who heard about the event through our website, the City of Merritt website, And he brought something to my attention, and I said, like, okay, and I was speechless. I was not sure how to answer. So he said, "Why your ad says this community event is not organized by the city?" And I said, like, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about." So he showed to me, and I said, "Okay, I have no idea." So when I'm thinking about the different events that they are happening in our community, we are trying to attract people, regardless if they are Kamloops, Kelowna, or any other areas, such as the Base Coast, when the city promoted Base Coast or the cruisers show. So I don't see the need to put that ad. So maybe I'm missing something here. Is that a rationale behind that?
I will confirm that. I kind of wonder if it's a liability, like, so
totally-
if somebody gets injured, it's not a City of Merritt event.
It's totally liability. So, Councillor Open, what ended up happening is this was put on by Ray Robinson and Jeff when it first started. And it was a event that they did. Got to the point where it started to grow to the point where they needed insurance, they needed a fire plan, all of this stuff. They didn't have the funds to do it, so they asked the city to take it over as far as liability, but it's still put on by the committee. We build it, we put it out there, but it's a city event basically for liability issues in case somebody gets hurt up there, because the association doesn't have that kind of money to do that. So it's there. It's the same reason for the Country Christmas Parade. Exactly the same thing. Country Christmas is a city event, but it's not run by the city. It's run by a different group. Same thing. They needed liability to put the parade on. So it is a liability issue. Yep. Sorry about, I guess if we should have explained that when it happened. So, Councillor. Oh, yeah.
Particular thing.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. Councillor Baxter.
I was away, so I didn't attend as many events as the other counselors. But last week I went to the ESS Lunch and Learn, and that was very educational, and I learned a lot, and I want to take the programs. And then today I went to a local author had her book launch at the library, and it was really good and well attended.
For myself, I did everything else. July 11th was our first rec commission. And I'm really glad we had it. It's I think we're going to meet every month until budget time. It's very important that we get together. So I'm glad that one is now going. I did my volunteer up at the Base Coast, had a great time. Got interviewed by some traveling Wilbury from New York City or from the New York Post. They have quite the interesting view of Canada. It's hilarious. But anyways, I enjoyed it. Airport Day went really well. I want to thank the entire crew, Ray and Jeff and Melvina and trying to remember somebody else. Anyways, everybody that took the time all year, we have a meeting this Friday to start for the next one already. 18th to 19th, I was at the TNRD. 21st was the car show. Mayor's Choice was Doug and Donna McAlishan with the beautiful 57 Corvette, one of only 84 in that color in the world. And that car has been coming to that show for 15 years. The first time I saw it, it was in a box about the size of this table. And then the next time he brought it, it was the frame. And then the next time he brought it was a motor running on a brick. And he's just continually built it. So if anybody deserved that car choice, it was his, because it's extremely rare. It's probably valued at close to $250,000. And no, I don't think you'd want to be breaking into anything Nicholas. So I just want to say thank you to the community and thank you to our staff for the water, when the water break happened, the information that got out there, how the community jumped behind that right away. And Rick, your staff that worked extra hard to get that done and the communication that went out. So I was very impressed with all of that. I think a lot of people were. We had our detractors. It's the way it goes. But at least we were upfront and out there. I wanted to thank Minister Ma, MCSE. They were ready to help us in any way. And I forgot the name of the company from Hope that was willing to bring up bottled water. What was it called? Yeah, Pure Life, that was willing to bring up bottled water at a moment's notice. So it's really nice when you can't see that kind of thing. I've got a call today from a gentleman, and this is going to be for the parents out there. We know we're in spring break right now. Sorry, summer break. And we are having issues with kids going to Rotary Park and lighting fires in the band shell and behind the band shell. If your kids are out at 11, 12 o'clock at night and you don't know where they are, get to know where they are, because the last thing we need is them having fires in that place. So I've asked the RCMP to step it up, and your kids will be arrested if they're caught doing this. So know where your kids are and stop screwing around with fire, especially when it's so dry. A little bit of common sense would be nice. So And these are school age kids because they take off like jackrabbits, but know where your kids are because we don't need our community set on fire. And that's about it. That's my moment of being a dad. So there we go. Information items. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Anybody want to comment on any of those? Yep, just checking. CEO report is there. Do you want to counsel? Do you want to see it? Yep.
I had hoped to do the a bit of an update on our capital work, but ultimately we're still finishing capital work from last year. Then we got our cross connection van, and that's come in, so we're very excited about that. And we have a few other engineering projects out to get going on some things, but the biggest things that you'll see around the city are the wonderful Folk Street work. The
Yes.
columbarium pads are done or in progress. The active transportation trail and paving on the other end of Oak Street by the school are looking good. Tomorrow should be done that. And then you'll see there are lots of developments happening in the community. We're expecting some paving on one development up on the bench tomorrow, I think, as well, thereabouts. And as well, there's underground infrastructure going in on the flats. So lots of good work to help grow this community. And we're aware there are probably a couple of industrial businesses coming into that development, as well as already some planning around housing development over there as well.
So just, yep, go right ahead, Councillor Sharkey.
So you're saying the infrastructure, are they doing the infrastructure all the way to where the houses are projected?
Yeah, they have it phased, but yeah, so there's infrastructure that's going in the industrial area and infrastructure going in the residential area currently.
So one thing that I do get comments every single day, dust is a situation that's going to happen no matter which way we look at it. We've got high winds, we've got dry. I mean, they are watering the paths that the truck take, but they're not going to water the entire place. I understand it's a bit of an inconvenience. Continually asking me to do the same thing over and over again when there's no way I can do anything about it is nets you no response at all. So one response is the way it's going to be. This is development. Everybody gets upset when there's no development, and I'm finding when we do get development, everybody gets upset when we have development. So pick your poison, please. Councillor Hitchard.
Just adding to your comment, it's kind of nice to get back to normal council, back how it used to be in 2019, where people were complaining about dust instead of the bridge and COVID and lockdowns and everything like that. So even though it's terrible,
It's not terrible.
no, it's great though.
There's
Like,
nothing that
I'm
can be
happy to
done.
hear that people are complaining
There's
about
nothing that
dirt
can
now
be done.
because it's almost a sign of things being normal, like it used to be pre-COVID. So anyway.
So any questions on the CEO report or the council resolutions or the fire department stats? Okey-dokey. Thank you, everyone. So the next page. Recommendation that this meeting, closed session, recommendation that this meeting be closed to the public pursuant to sections 91A. Personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee or agent of the municipality, another position appointed by the municipality. E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements. If the council considers the disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality. And K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and that in the view of the council could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public of the community charter. Can I have a mover on that? Councillor Ogan, Councillor Etchart, any questions on this? All those in favor, going into closed. Take 5, smoke them if you got them.
sorry to interrupt here. Ashlyn, if I can get you to please exit the meeting from the screen.